Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Friends, we are gathered here today to mourn the ending of the Core 4 era. Were there great regular season times? Yes. Yes, there were many. 69 goals for Austin Matthews. First place in the Atlantic. All sorts of wild games. But were there also many playoff disappointments? Yes. And that is how they went out with a 6-1 loss to the Florida Panthers in Game 7 of the second round. It's over. We can finally be put out of our misery. But before we are fully out of our misery, we're going to break down that game and talk a little bit about what's next here on Game Over Toronto. I'm Dominic Jones. That's Zach Payne. I should point in the right direction. And Zach, I feel like your last name is appropriate right now because I am in pain, and I think you are too. How are you feeling? Game's over. How are we feeling?
So there's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of sadness, depression. But above all else, it's just defeated. I'm defeated. This has been 9 years that the Core 4 experiment has been going on. 9 years that the Leafs have made the playoffs. 9 years that they have failed to achieve their not only the ultimate goal, but even a deep playoff run. This was the longest playoff run since 2002.
God, it's so pathetic.
And they were less than halfway to what they were actually trying to achieve, which is a Stanley Cup. They were less than halfway to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing we have to do, because this is obviously going to be very heavy Leafs talk and Leafs postmortem and a funeral of the Core 4 era. So before we get into that, I think it's important that we say congratulations to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
They absolutely deserved to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have been the best team in hockey for the last 2 years, and they absolutely deserve to be moving on to the third round. The better team won this series. The better team won tonight, and best of luck to them against the Carolina Hurricanes in round 3.
Yeah, it's safe to say that any doubts anyone might have had about the Florida Panthers and their abilities to keep playing at the level that they've been playing at, not just last year, not just this year, but the year before that too, it should be put to rest. This is an elite team, and I have a feeling we're headed for a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup, and I have a feeling it'll go the same number of games, but that's a conversation for another day. I think you hit it, like with the feelings of despair, hopelessness, all of that. I kind of want to commend the people that stuck around to the very end of that game in the building. I look, I don't condone throwing things on the ice, although throwing your jersey on the ice is a pretty effective messaging tool. But all day today, and through the first sort of half of the game, or through the first period, was feeling really anxious, feeling really tense, feeling really nervous about what this game was going to be. And when Florida scored, it all went away. It all went away.
Yep.
The feelings of anxiety, of hope, of whatever, all went away, and there was just an emptiness inside. Because you saw the way the Panthers came out. The Leafs had a little pushback in the first, but they had it. They had whatever it is. The Panthers had it, and they carried it through this entire game, right up until the ultimate slap in the face, which is the Brad Marchand empty net goal. We'll talk some more about that. But at what point? Let me put it this way: at what point did you know it was over?
So I think it's fair to say the Panthers absolutely destroyed the Leafs in the first 10 minutes of the first period. And then the back 10, I thought the Leafs played really well. They
Yeah.
had multiple breakaways. I have no idea still how William Nylander didn't score on that chance at the side of the net where he gets it over Bobrovsky's pad and under the arm, but somehow Bobrovsky is able to pin it with his elbow to his back and it doesn't go in. And I like after the first period, you thought, okay, 0-0, terrible start, but you had that one great Nylander chance. You had 2 breakaways. The Leafs have had the puck for basically the last 10 minutes, aside from the penalty kill. Things are looking up, and they were settling into their 5-on-5 play. And it took 6 minutes and 41 seconds for not only for the Panthers to take the lead, but for them to end the Leafs season. It was 6 minutes and 41 seconds where the Panthers scored 3 goals. They absolutely dominated the Leafs in the second period. It was the worst period of the entire season. And Florida ran away with this game because going into it, it was very clear whoever scored the first goal was going to have a huge advantage in this game because both of these teams love to defend. And you needed, if you're the Leafs, you needed to score first so that the Panthers would open up more so you could get those rush chances later in the game. And not only did the Leafs not score, but the Panthers quickly got 3 straight and it was over. Even if they had gone into the third period down 1-0, it would have been over. Like, I know Domi scored early, but the Panthers don't make that mistake if it's a closer game. So
and the Panthers continue to show that fight. Like Domi scores, they score 41 seconds later. Like they never got down, whereas it felt like the Leafs got down and then they couldn't do anything. As soon as the Panthers score that first goal, if you have any hope of coming back in this game, you're coming back with some quick, good shifts to put some pressure on. And instead they got pinned and they got pinned again and they got pinned again. And like you said, all those 3 goals happened within less than 7 minutes. Domi gets that goal and you think, okay, maybe there's something here. How many times have we seen the Leafs have a 3-goal lead and blow it in a game like this? All of this started.
Come back. How many times have we seen them come back from deficits before?
Yeah. All of this started in 2013 with the 4-1 blow it. 3-0 is different, but it's 3 goals. And I'm thinking like, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's some magic to this. And 41 seconds later, puck's in the back of the net and it's over again. And this is why I started by saying I want to commend the people that stayed in the arena. I want us to commend them for maintaining their passion. And when I say that, I mean booing this team. Because like I said, I was feeling dead inside once the Panthers are going up by 1-2 goals. Feeling dead inside. The fact that you managed to stay there and stay angry, stay feeling something, that you know what? And you know what? Sending a message to whoever is going to run this team next year that this isn't good enough.
The most impressive moment of the night was that there was a Go Leafs Go chant to start the third period. I was actually so impressed that the crowd still had hope and energy and optimism going into the third period, down 3-0 in a game 7. And then Domi scores. It's like, okay, like there's reason to get
something
excited.
Here.
And I don't want to single out anyone because everyone is to blame for this, but then Joseph Woll gives up a bad goal, and people are going to talk about the goaltending as I wouldn't say Joseph Woll is a problem. He wasn't good. He was bad in this game. But I think what we've learned about Joseph Woll over the years now, and especially in this series, is he will match the effort of the team in front of him.
Yes.
If the team in front of him is good, Joseph Woll will be very good. If the team in front of him is bad, Woll will also be bad. And that's not necessarily like backbreaking, because you would expect your team to play good in a game 7 on home ice, but nope. So that goal goes in. The Reinhart goal through traffic, bleh. And then the Marchand, whatever. Like the second, was it Lusterinen that scored that 4th goal?
Yes, it is somebody. Yeah, it was. I think you're right. I think that's who it was.
So as soon as that goal goes in, we had 41 seconds of like, okay, maybe they could start doing something if you could get another one before the 10-minute mark. Nope. Bye. Goodbye. Good night.
Yeah. And 6-1, it could have easily been 7-1 if Paul Maurice had felt like challenging the no goal. There's an argument that could have been a goal, They made it on the broadcast. I don't know if I fully agree, but who fully understands what the NHL Situation Room decides half the time? There could have been a case made for that being a goal, but I think Paul Maurice, like the rest of us, understood it was fucking over at that point. It didn't matter. What was the point? Just keep playing.
And look, honestly, Mitch Marner, man, that play. So Mitch Marner gets a pass and he turns it over, and then he's like falling over doing spinoramas on the back check. And then Morgan Rielly, who was downright unwatchable tonight, gets walked by a defenseman. And he also had the pinch on the first Jones goal. Like that, it's there's so much blame to go around, but Morgan Rielly was horrible. Jake McCabe was horrible with the puck on his stick in this. Like, I have no idea what happened to Jake McCabe's ability to handle the puck. It was gone. Morgan Rielly, he was good at the start of the series, and the second the rush chances went away, he went away with them. He was horrible in this game, horrible decision making, horrible defensive ability. Mitch Marner, really bad. We'll talk about him extensively later. William Nylander, really bad. You know what? Funny enough, Austin Matthews in the first period was actually unreal. Like, in the first period, he was so physically dominant in every puck battle. But then the second the Panthers scored the goals, he left the building too. Like, he very much rode the energy of Leafs Nation, where we're at the start of the game, it's like, okay, let's get going. We're ready, we're going. And then the second the Panthers scored those goals, Matthews just completely ghosted the rest of the game. It's tough because, as we'll talk about later, there are a few easy ways to change up this team, but it's actually harder than you think, because a lot of these contracts have a lot of term left on them, have no move clauses. So yeah, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, I will say, the one thing I'll say about Jake McCabe is he did not have a great game, but he did seem to be one of the few guys that was playing with a little bit of fire out there. He was trying to make things happen. He wasn't succeeding, obviously.
Bad, yeah.
He just wasn't having it. He wasn't having his good night, but like, nothing could get going. Nobody could get anything. And he, on occasion, would get them like a tiny, tiny, tiny bit closer. But no, he had no support, and he couldn't do it himself. And, even on his best day, he couldn't have done anything to help this. It was bad. It was bad from the beginning. They came out of the second period with no jump, and they just, I don't know. It felt like whatever good they had done at any point in the series was forgotten. Anything that they had done successfully was forgotten. Or, you know what? Maybe we can give credit to where credit is due to the Panthers. Yep. They got figured out. They figured him out. Paul Maurice and his coaching staff and the players there figured out what the Leafs were doing well in games 1, 2, and 3. Figured out what they did well in game 6, and they shut them down. And the Leafs could not find an answer for what the Panthers were doing well. They just couldn't do it.
Yeah. So in this series, they started on fire with the rush chances. After the first period of game 3, the Panthers adjusted and they said, no more rush chances. We are taking that away. And the Leafs never got an answer. They never figured out that the rush offense was gone. The stretch passes, I have talked ad nauseum all season about the Leafs' over-reliance on the stretch pass. And you saw, like, the Leafs go down 3-0. And after the Panthers decided that they were done playing offense and they were just going to lock it down, what happened? They just sat 5 high. The Leafs tried stretch passes. They couldn't get anything going. They had no momentum through the neutral zone. They had no speed. They had no, they couldn't connect a pass. They just couldn't do anything, because at their core, the Leafs are, it is a fundamental mismatch that the Panthers own over the Leafs, because they are so structured in the neutral zone, and it defeats everything the Leafs try to do. And when it mattered, you saw that in emphatic fashion.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad.
Horrible.
Only other thing I really have to say on this is Brad Marchand getting the empty net goal. It's fucking poetry if Satan wrote poetry. Like, that's what it was. Like, of course it was him. Of course it was him. He's been the guy who's tormented this team for over a decade. And you thought it was the Boston Bruins. And the Bruins get eliminated. They don't even make the playoffs. But he does. He gets traded at the deadline, literally at the deadline, to Florida, and he comes back to haunt this team. And you think, oh, this is our chance. This is the year we're going to get past him. And not only do you fail to do that, he's the one that ices the cake. Not that there was any real chance they were going to score 4 goals with the empty net, but he just made sure it wasn't going to happen.
Yep. And look, you know what? I actually do have to give flowers here. Brad Marchand is now 5-0 against the Leafs in Game 7. That is the most Game 7 victories a player has ever had against a single opponent. And
it's
genuinely,
hilarious.
That is a more impressive stat than Pete DeBoer's, what was it, 9-0 in Game 7?
Yeah,
or
right.
7-0 in like whatever. Like, Brad Marchand being 5-0 against the Leafs in Game 7 is more impressive than that, because to repeatedly own a team in the biggest moments consistently, year after year after year, is genuinely like the most impressive thing that I can even come up with.
It's the sort of thing that, like, you can't plan for that, can't prepare for that, and yet he does it every single time. He's got their number, and he's got their number perfectly.
Yeah. Do want to quickly shout out OKO Digital. It says not gonna be chatting much as we've got floodwaters rising where I'm at, and you need to get your kids from the school. Man, take care of your family, man.
Yeah.
I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah,
you'll hope to be active more next season. But see, you've been great in the chat. So
yeah, it's
take care
been
of your
wonderful.
family, man.
Yeah. That's a good reminder. You know, we sit here and bellyache about this infuriating hockey team, but there are real problems that real people have that are really important. But so thank you for your support, OKO Digital, and thank you for that little reality check here as we continue to eulogize this friggin' hockey team. Like, there's nothing to say about this game. It was bad. It was bad from the beginning, and it was bad at the end.
Yep.
You have anything else, or should we move into the second period and talk about?
So this is the thing, is because anything else we have to say is a part of a larger conversation. So in a vacuum, if we were just looking at this game, horrible, unacceptable, and the fact, like, I guess the last thing I'll say is it is so difficult to get booed off the ice in Game 7 of your own barn, and the fact that they were getting booed out of the building in the second period is honestly the most impressive thing this team has done in the last 9 years.
Yeah, I was watching this game with my roommate, and he's sort of a casual hockey fan, not a Leafs fan, just an Oilers guy for some reason. And he's watching this, and during the second period, he goes, "Are they booing?" I'm like, "Yeah." Just at Game 7 at home, I'm like, "Yeah, they friggin' deserve it." Anyway, let's move into the second period here. Alluded to this off the top. The core four has to be done. Marner's contract is up. Tavares' contract is up. You're not bringing both of them back. And you can make a case for not even bringing one of them back. When I look back at Canada Day 2018, I remember this day very, very vividly, because this is something that very few people do. Only I do this. I decided that day I was going to watch The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi back to back. These are two Star Wars movies, to see how well they run into each other. And while I'm doing this, I'm checking my phone because I know that the Tavares sweepstakes are happening. And I'm just sort of like checking my phone, and I'm watching Star Wars, and I'm checking my phone, and I'm watching Star Wars, and I'm thinking, it'd be nice if the Leafs got him, but it's no way. That never happens. Never happens to your team. And then I saw the tweet. I think it was Elliot Friedman who first had it. He tweets out the number. He tweets out the years. It says Tavares to Toronto. And I remember thinking, This is it. The Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup. And all of the talk on that day was about the end of the contract is going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. But hopefully by that point, you will have won something and it won't matter. And here we are. At the end of that contract. There are no more games left on that contract. And the Leafs' greatest success was this year, winning 7 playoff games. As you said earlier, not even halfway. And we think about 2023 as an absolute disaster when they only won 5 games. They only won 2 more than that.
That was their second best.
That was their second best. And they won 2 more than that, and it didn't even get them to the halfway point.
And honestly, 2023, for as much as they didn't deserve to beat Tampa, that felt better because at least they beat a good opponent. Ottawa was not good.
No,
you
should have beat Ottawa.
Yeah, and honestly, it shouldn't have taken 6 games. You laid an egg in Game 5 of that series too. So Ottawa was bad, and you just beat them. Cool, congrats. You got the layup, an uncontested layup, and then you played a real team. And what the Leafs? This is the most frustrating part: is they're actually so good.
Mm-hmm.
They have the potential to do so many great things because you see them go. We just said the Panthers are the best team in hockey. They just pushed the Panthers to Game 7, and then they lay an egg.
They were up 2-0. Think about where we were a week and a half ago after Game 2.
Up 2-0, and in Game 3, you had a 3-1 lead.
Yeah. It felt
unacceptable.
It felt different for a moment there. And that's where they get you. That's what they get you every year. Is they make you believe. And this group made you believe a little bit more. This iteration of the team made you believe a little bit more. But in the end, the result is the same. It's a Game 7 loss. They're shaking hands with the other team and going golfing the next day. It was it.
Yep.
It's the Ted Lasso thing. It's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that kills you.
So we have 2 things to get to in this Core 4 segment.
Yeah.
One is the 9 years of failure, and then 2 is where it goes from. How does this all end? What is going to happen in the coming days and months here? What would you prefer to start with?
Let's start. Let's look back first before we look ahead.
Okay. So I have some fun tweets to go back over.
Bring them on.
This from Dr. Grizzo on Twitter. If you had bet $100 on the Leafs to lose Game 7 in 2018, and then took the winnings from that and bet the winnings against the Leafs in every single winner-take-all game against the Leafs, you would now have $11,522.
Sure. Great.
It is comical how much of an infinite money glitch this is.
Yeah.
I am beyond stunned that every gambling ad at the start of the playoffs is not just the odds on the Leafs opponent in 7. It is, and honestly, maybe it's because it would bankrupt every sportsbook if everyone knew how free that money is.
This is why the Leafs were the underdog in every single game, even when they were winning.
Yep.
Because you knew this was where it was going to end up eventually.
Yep. So, next, this from J Fresh Hockey. The Toronto Maple Leafs have now lost their 8th winner-take-all game in a row. Based on implied probability, the odds of losing every single one of those games is 1 in 345. Next up, and this is the big one. This is a 2-parter.
Okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs are now 0-6 in Game 7s since 2018. In those games, Austin Matthews, 0 goals, 3 assists, -4 with 19 shots on goal. Mitch Marner, 0 goals, 2 assists. William Nylander, 2 goals, 2 assists, and a -4. John Tavares, in 4 games played, 1 goal, 0 assists. In their last This is going back to 2019. So 2019 Game 7 against Boston, 2020 Game 5 against Columbus, 2021 Game 7 against Montreal, 2022 Game 7 against Tampa Bay, 2024 Game 7 against Boston, and now 2025 Game 7 against Florida. The Leafs are averaging in all of those games under 1 goal per game.
It's
they
pathetic.
scored exactly 1 goal in all the Game 7s and 0 in the Game 5 against Columbus. What more needs to be said than that?
Yeah.
The entire premise of this core 4 philosophy, paying 4 superstar forwards, is that you would be able to outscore your problems. And every single time you get into these big moments, they all disappear and suddenly you can't score goals. What do you mean you can't score goals?
Yeah.
Unacceptable.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like you said, the whole gambit was that you could outscore all of your other problems. And, you know, you look at the teams that they built in the Dubas era where defense was not a priority. It was scoring. And it didn't work. True Living comes in. He says, we're going to keep the core 4, or maybe he's made to keep the core 4. But he says, I'm gonna bolster the defense. I'm gonna bring in Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. We're gonna make this team, you know, solid on the back end. Yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. Strong idea. Good concept, Brad. But somebody's still got to put it in the net. Somebody's still got to score. And if those guys that are making up, I guess it's not 50% of the salary cap, but it freaking feels like it at times.
Isn't it over that? Like this year, they're making Matthews is making 13.25, Nylander's at 11.5, so you're basically close to 25 million there.
Yeah.
Tavares at 11, so that's what 36. Marner at basically 11, so you're close to 48 million. The cap was what 92.
Yeah, so you're basically there. Yeah, you're right. You're making over 50% of the.
You're more than 50%
to those guys, and if they cannot do it, you're not going to win. It's that simple.
Yeah. It
Max Pacioretty can only score so many goals. He can only Max Pacioretty and Simon Benoit are not going to win you the Stanley Cup. They're going to be helpful, useful pieces. Yeah. They're going to be helpful, useful pieces, but they cannot get them over the edge. Like I said, yeah, astonishing is an exceptional word for it.
Yeah. So, and the quotes are coming out from after the game. Berube
God, I don't even want to hear them.
Okay, yeah, we can skip over that.
I mean, like, if there's something there, but like, I've seen this before. I've heard it all before.
Yeah. So I guess the only interesting one here is Berube saying, I can't explain game 5 and 7 at home. It's obviously things that we've got to look at and talk about as an organization.
Yeah. I agreed, Craig. Agreed. I you know, this was the other. So Craig Berube, as a coach, you know, he comes in, he's new coach first year. He's trying to do something different. I'll tell you the other moment I realized it was over was when I saw Matthews, Marner, and Tavares on the ice together. Because that was Keefe's big gambit in game 5 against Columbus, was to have one super line and try and have them win it for them in the bubble. And it didn't work. Well, they said that's the game they got shut out. They didn't even get a goal in that game. And when I saw those three out there, I'm like, this man is out of ideas. He's trying everything with this group. And you know what? Maybe if you give him another year, he can come up with something different. But in this moment, that is a move that reeks of desperation. He is out of ideas. And so he's running back, you know, one of the worst moments in Leafs recent history. Game 5 against Columbus. Again, coming off a big, gutsy, exciting win in Game 4. Much like our Game 6 the other day. And just running those guys out there. And together, separated, couldn't get it done.
So, this is from Josh DiSavino in the chat. By the way, 21 people watching the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto on this season finale of our show. Stevie Wonder said, based on what he's seen, it's time to break up the core. Shout out Josh for that one.
That's a good one.
And shout out everyone that in the chat. Like, sorry that we haven't been checking in too much, but you guys have been incredible with all the comments so far. So and make sure you get your questions in, because when we get to the overtime segment, we will talk about some other stuff.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
What do we do now? What do you do now with the core four? Matthews and Nylander are under contract long-term, no movement clauses, no trade clauses. Marner and Tavares are up. Do you even consider it? Do you even consider bringing one or both of them back?
So there's two parts.
Mm-hmm.
One, this from Darren Dreger on Mitch Marner. Now, it is important to note, Darren Dreger is just carrying water for the agents, and that is what he does. Mm-hmm. But on TSN moments ago, at one point of the season, Toronto was comfortable with paying Mitch Marner on a mega extension of 8 years, upwards of $13.5 million per year. Mm-hmm. Adds, he doesn't know if the Maple Leafs are comfortable with that now. No fucking shit, they're not comfortable with it now, because anyone with a pulse that watched Mitch Marner in the playoffs knows, nope. I love how good he is defensively. I despise how ineffective and complacent and just horrifying he is offensively in the playoffs in the big moments. Nope. Bye.
Yeah. Look, let's think back to the trade deadline for a second, right? The Leafs are in talks with the Hurricanes about Mikko Rantanen. Any team that ever wants to compete has to, and they know that player is available, you have to at least make the call. The conversation gets to, would you trade Marner for Rantanen? Leafs say yes. Marner says no. Rantanen gets traded to Dallas, signs a deal for far less than that number you just said. Mikko Rantanen.
And it should be noted, the Leafs it would have been 8 years at 13.25. That was the rumored contract the Leafs were prepared to offer Rantanen.
There you go. Mikko Rantanen is the biggest reason why we might not get a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. If the Stars are to eliminate the Oilers, it will be because of him. The Stars have gotten to where they were because of him. If the Leafs had gotten through somehow through this game, it almost would have been in spite of Mitch. And I hate saying that. I think it's maybe it's a little unfair. Maybe it's a little unfair. Maybe we're caught up in the emotions of the moment. But the two players are not comparable when it comes to the big games. When it comes to the big games and the big moments. And so if you are sitting there thinking, I want to put my team over the edge, not just make the playoffs, but really go for it, are you really going to pay Mitch Marner more than Mikko Rantanen? I don't see it. A serious
team won't, but he'll get paid, and it'll be a team that is not in the playoff picture and is looking to get into it.
Exactly. If you're a team that's on the outside looking in, you're like, just get me those minimum 4 home playoff dates or minimum 2 home playoff dates. Give me that. Yeah. Then you're like, you know what? You'll throw the money at Mitch. He'll show up and he will put up points in the regular season. He will help you win those games and he will get you to the playoffs. And then you have to hope the other 19 guys on your roster can carry up the rest of the way.
But honestly, for a lot of teams, getting into the playoffs is a big deal. So if he goes to Chicago, Chicago will be ready to throw the bag at him, or another alternative, because Carolina is interested in him, as Matthew is pointing out. Watch Marner sign in Carolina. Honestly, would not surprise me.
Yeah,
I think we know Marner's going to go to a smaller market. We know that it's the Ryan O'Reilly. I don't like the media. I don't like the attention. I don't like the pressure. His son was just born a week and a half ago. So he's going to take his family and he is going to lay down his roots somewhere else. the only path to him possibly remaining a Maple Leaf is taking the biggest discount on earth. Like it would have to be sub 10 million for any Leaf fan to even consider it. Tavares, on the other hand, it should be noted in the post game, obviously Tavares and Marner are both asked about their contract situations, and Tavares was very adamant. He wants to come back. He wants to be a Maple Leaf. He will come back. Like, he wants to figure it out, and he loves playing for the city. Marner, it's too early to discuss his future. I don't know. I haven't given it any thought.
I don't know, Mitch. I guess it is still May. You gotta get through the rest of May and June before the actual decision is made, I suppose. With Tavares, again, this is where, Marner, like you said, unless it's a real discount, I think you're saying best of luck, pal. I hope it works out better for you, and I hope it works out better for us.
That is some of the nicer things he might hear from Leafs fans on his way out the door.
Yeah, but with Tavares, he didn't perform in this series. He didn't help them, get over the edge. He didn't have a signature moment like he did back in 2023 with the overtime winner. Like, he didn't have any of that. But and so I can get people feeling frustrated and saying, just let him walk. Just let him walk. Let's get him out of here. He's the one I think you gotta sort of let the emotions of today and the last few weeks dissipate. Take a week or two and just put it out of your mind, and then come back at the beginning of June and take a good hard look at what he brings to this team, and take a good hard look at what might be available and how you would replace it, and ask yourself if you can replace it. And then you start talking about that number. And then if you figure out whether or not, he wants to come, then you find out how badly he wants to come back.
Yeah. So we'll see. I
it's
think
a coin
Tavares
flip.
will be back. I can excuse his playoff performance to just, he doesn't have the ability to drive a line the way he used to. And when William Nylander isn't going, that means Tavares isn't going. So I could excuse it a little bit. I think he comes back to be your 2C next year because the center market's not great. And then maybe a 3C the next year. But I think the number for Tavares has to be under 6. Preferably under 5. It could be in the mid, 5.5 to 6 mil on a 1-year deal, and then you just every year you just re-up him for less and less as his career comes to an end. If it's a 2 or 3 year deal, that number needs to be under 5.
Yeah, we'll see. It's another interesting question. I mean, is there anyone else just for a second here, if we look outside the core 4? Is there anyone else who you're seeing, you just think, what, it's time to send them on their way?
Max Domi, David Kampf, Kalle Yarncroke off the top of my head. Nick Robertson's an RFA, so he's going to be a very interesting question. But that's already 4. That's 4 guys already.
I'll say about Max Domi, I feel like now, if you're going to trade him, now is the time. I feel like if you're only sort of peripherally aware of the Leafs, or you're just sort of been following the scores and the big moments, there might be somebody that goes, like the overtime winner, the tying goal in what was it, Game 3. He's the only one that got a goal tonight, and if the rest of the team could have followed suit, then maybe we're looking at a fantastic comeback in the third period. He had some big moments in this playoff. He played really, really well in Game 6. He played really well defensively in Game 6.
I think Domi was fine at the end of the series, but he's just not that good of a player. So you can do better for the money you give him.
And that's why I'm saying this might be the time when people might feel highest on him, because he just had some decent moments and some decent play, but we shall see. We'll move here into our third period. Again, make sure you're liking and subscribing. We've got tons of
32
people. Yeah,
in
tons of
here.
people listening. Tons of people here for the eulogy. Tons of people here for the funeral. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope you'll tune in again next season when the Leafs are back with hopefully a significantly overhauled roster. But to overhaul the roster, it's now the decisions to be made of the people at the top. And
Yep.
Brad Treliving's been here for 2 years. Craig Berube's been here for 1 year. Keith Pelly's been here for 1 year. There's one fella who has been here for a very, very long time, and that's Brendan Shanahan. And but before I turn it over to you, Zach, to unleash on Brendan Shanahan, I will say, for as frustrating as this team has been, and as frustrating as I feel like the organizational structure has been for the last few years, I do think, Brendan Shanahan has done all of the non-hockey related things with the Leafs very, very well. He's been a very, very good community ambassador. He's been excellent with the fans. He's been out there supporting the community, supporting hospitals, supporting all of that. So none of this is what is supposed to be said. None of this is personal towards Brendan Shanahan. Nope. I do think he is a good human with a good heart who, has used his position to benefit his community well. So I'll say that before we get into the hockey related stuff, which is where the frustration comes in. Zach, I cede the floor to you. Take it away.
Mm-hmm. So I want to quickly shout out Mark for saying, I appreciate you guys being able to be level-headed after that loss. Mad respect. You should have tuned in 5 minutes from that comment, because this is where this is what actually I'm truly passionately angry about. We talk about the game and the core four and all that. It's defeatism. It's purely defeatism. I am just sick of watching these guys lose year after year, because we know it's going to happen. Every Leaf fan on earth predicted that they would win Game 6 and lose Game 7 after that disaster of Game 5.
Yep.
But where the rage comes in is Brendan Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan was brought in, and he did a great job at the start of his career. He brought in Mike Babcock to be the coach, which at the time was a huge deal. He brings in Lou Lamoriello, a veteran GM, and they form this young team, this young, fun team. But then Brendan Shanahan, he decides, you know what, Lou Lamoriello, you're going to go. And you know what? That was a good decision, because it was Kyle Dubas' time. The thing is, Kyle Dubas is a little young. He signs John Tavares. He gets a little cocky, and he's a young GM. He gets his lunch ate in these negotiations, and all these guys are making a ton of money. The Leafs lose in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. And the Leafs, time after time after time, say, we believe in the core four. We're bringing the core four back. None of these guys are getting traded. 2022, again, you lose, but they look good. They got more respect in the handshake line. Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
How much respect do you think they got tonight in the handshake line? That's what I want to know.
2023, they finally beat Tampa, but they get smacked by Florida. And Kyle Dubas finally breaks, and he says, you know what? Maybe we were too rigid in our process. Maybe it's time to consider moving off of the core four. And what happens next? He gets fired because Brendan Shanahan was like, no, I love these guys. They're my guys. The core four, look how great they are. They get us to the playoffs every year. They're so good. Look at them. Mm-hmm. We're going to protect them. The first thing Brendan Shanahan did after Kyle Dubas was fired was call every member of the core four to reassure them that they weren't going anywhere. And thus, their no movement clauses kick in. And all of a sudden, you have lost all the power. Brad Treliving comes in, and it's very obvious he's not running the show. For as much as he made some good moves, he's not running the show. It's Brendan Shanahan's team. Brendan Shanahan has been the ringleader of this circus for the last 9 years. He has become the face of the Toronto Maple Leafs and their ownership group. And year after year after year, when we get mad that the core four is being brought back, it's Brendan Shanahan protecting his guys, refusing to admit that he fucked up and he made a mistake and he was wrong to bring them back year after year after year. Mitch Marner should have been traded after the Montreal series in 2021 when he imploded and he had that puck over the glass in Game 6 on an uncontested penalty kill, and he choked, and he was awful, and he just needed to be gone. But they protected him. 2022, the Leafs. They look good, but they still lose in Game 7 in the first round. John Tavares will sit up there and be like, we're right there. We're right there. But no, you're not right there. You suck. Mitch Marner needed to be gone after that too. Or anyone else. And it could have been anyone else at that point. 2023, you lose to Florida. That was the time to trade Mitch Marner because he was awful. Or Nylander. Again, you could have traded any.
Either or,
but now it's Marner. You extend Nylander. You extend Matthews. Tavares was still under contract. Mitch Marner was the one. He was the one who consistently shrunk in the big moments. And Matthews did too, to an extent. But at least Matthews had series where he would black out and score 5 goals. Matthews at least showed an ability to be good in the playoffs. Marner never did. He was good in games 1 to 3. Never passed that. Mitch Marner lost all the goodwill. And, there's a whole conversation we had about agent and how he destroyed the puppy dog persona he had.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to be mad about the core four, and understandably so. There's 9 years of frustration about this. So there is 41 people in here. I want all of you to remember, when you're looking for who to blame Brendan Shanahan, because he's the reason that this experiment has gone on as long as it has. And the Shanahan plan was, for as good as it was to get the Leafs to the playoffs consistently, there wasn't a plan beyond that, and he refused to admit defeat. He refused to move on from Mitch Marner. And you reap what you sow, and these are the consequences of your actions, or your inaction, rather. Marner's now going to walk for nothing. You could have traded him and gotten a haul. Could you imagine how much the Leafs could have gotten in a trade for Mitch Marner 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. You had a year of team control and or 2 years of team control, and you could have extended him. Every single person, every single 31 teams are lining up to trade for that player. And instead, Shanahan says no, he protects his core. And now 2 years later, the same results. And now you're going to lose him for nothing. And to be fair, but COVID, you signed these contracts before COVID.
Yeah.
It is totally fair to say that the COVID-19 pandemic ruined the Leafs plan.
Yeah.
You know what it didn't ruin? It didn't ruin your ability to change that plan or adapt to the situation like every other GM in the league did. Every other franchise did.
And everybody else in life. COVID screwed the Leafs. COVID screwed a lot of people.
COVID didn't make Brendan Shanahan decide that this an immovable.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear that as an excuse. A lot worse things happened to a lot of people. People died, people lost their jobs, people lost loved ones. People had really, really, really negative experiences during COVID. And you expect people to be sympathetic to you because the salary cap didn't go up by more than $1 million a year. Do what everybody else did and adapt. Yeah.
Hey,
do what everybody else did and adapt.
Hey, let me quote one of Brendan Shanahan's precious core four members. Stop fucking crying, bro. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Adapt and admit that you made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to do in life. I get it.
Yeah.
But Brendan Shanahan, because he refused to admit that he made a mistake, there is no justification for him to ever work in hockey operations again. You said, he's very good at the business side of things. He did a lot of great things for the Toronto community. There is no excuse for any one of the 32 NHL teams to ever hire him to make hockey decisions ever again. He has proven time and time again he is horrible at this. He doesn't belong. And now he's about to get fired. And if he doesn't, I'll have a whole other rant because Keith Pelly said that the Leafs weren't just here to sell sweaters. That was his exact quote. And instead, if you keep Brendan Shanahan, you are admitting you don't care. So
you got us
it would
2
be
more
inexcusable.
wins.
If the Leafs don't fire Shanahan, it is the most gross incompetence I've seen from a professional sports team, and that includes the Chicago Blackhawks, who covered up a sexual assault scandal.
I wouldn't go quite that far. But what I will say, sometimes people are the right person for the right moment. And Shanahan was the right person when he was brought in to sort of clear house, get things started. But
absolutely, he
wasn't the right person to get them over the next hump.
Nope.
He was stuck. He got stuck at a certain point, and this is as far as he was able to go. And the reason why why you don't often see the guy who starts the rebuild in any position, coach, GM, president, finish it, it's because you need somebody else with a different killer instinct to come in and go, okay, this is good. It could be better. If we get rid of one of these guys and we use that cap space to do something else, maybe we're not looking at the best that this team can do is 7 playoff wins, less than halfway to the ultimate goal. I'll just reiterate, don't think it's worse than covering up sexual assault. Just to say that. It's bad. It's very bad, but it's not that bad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're fired up and you're pissed off, and when we get to that point, we say, we get fired up, we get pissed off. So, yeah.
But the point is, and the point remains, Brendan Shanahan deserves to be fired. He should have been fired.
I mean, his contract up, so you don't even have to fire him.
So
just let him walk. Just let him walk. Just let him walk out the door.
Everyone saw my face because I just saw this quote, and it made me sick to my stomach.
Oh, dear God.
This from Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand, after the game, says, "I grew up a Leafs fan."
Brad, are you a free agent at the end of this year? You want to come over? You want to sign? If you can't beat him, join him. If you can't beat him, join him. What's the reverse of that? If you always lose to the guy, go get him. Jeez.
You know what? I want to shout out Luke in the chat because he makes a great point along the lines that we've been talking about with Shanahan. You never hold on to a mistake just because you spent a long time making it. Shanahan should know that by now. And Kay from Game Over Montreal following that up. Completely sunken cost is such a dangerous fallacy to fall into.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah. So, I mean, the response to the sunken cost fallacy is people saying that like, oh, it put so much into it it's the Einstein quote, or at least the one that's attributed to him. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Well, we've had 9 years of this. I want to try something different. I want to try something different next year.
It is absolutely hysterical that we've gotten this large of a sample size with this core.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's been a funny thing happening online. Is suddenly fans of teams that have cap space are becoming Mitch Marner defenders and being like, why would you get rid of this guy? He's so great. Look at the Florida Panthers third line that they were able to deploy in this series. Luostarinen, Lundell, Marchand. And then come back to me and please try to explain why Mitch Marner should be back. Because that's the reason the Leafs can't afford a good third line, is Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and William Nylander and John Tavares and Morgan Riley and all this. It's, I don't know, man.
It's devastating.
I hate this team. I love them, but I hate what they do to us every single year. They truly do not deserve Leaf fans because they treat us so poorly.
And just to go back to we were talking about at the beginning, the arena. Like, I'm glad it was a blowout. I mean, if we have to lose, I'm glad it was a blowout because it gave the folks who were there an opportunity to voice what people have been saying for the last several years about this team, to the ownership, to the managers and everything in the arena. The boos, the jerseys, all of it. The people leaving, it made a point. All the other, like, think back, so many of the Game 7s, right? Game 5 and 2020 and 2021, there's nobody in the building. There's 750 healthcare workers in 2021. So there's nobody in the building. It's an empty building, not even a chance. Game 7 against Tampa in 2022, like, at least it's a close game, and they kind of got screwed. But, like, it's a close game, so nobody is, like, livid and furious. 2019,
you just lost to a better team.
Yeah, you lost to a better team. 2019, you go back there, like, you're still feeling like you're on the up and up. You're not starting to get frustrated, but not. You still feel like the better days are ahead. Here, they made us believe, they made us think it was possible, and then immediately reverted back to what we always saw. They blew it in Game 5. They blew it in Game 7. They had 2 opportunities to show their home fans what they were made of, what they could be, and they did exactly that, and it was shit. So boo, throw the jersey on the ice, take the ban from Scotiabank Arena, and that's that. I mean, don't throw it on the ice. Don't throw beer on the ice. Don't throw crap on the ice. It's stupid. It delays the game, creates unsafe situations. Don't do it. But
they didn't stop the game.
It sends a message.
They were throwing so much stuff on the ice during play that the refs gave up, and they didn't even stop the play. There was a jersey just hanging out in the ice while the play was in that zone, and they didn't stop the game because they couldn't stop the fans. Like, it is hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
The shot after, was it the 4th goal or the 5th goal? I don't even know which one it was, but of just the exit. And just the parade of people leaving. It's one thing if you have a losing record, you're not making the playoffs, to have a half-empty building for Game 82.
Fair.
Game 7 of any series, people should have their butts glued to their seats till the final whistle. Whether you win or lose, people should feel like there is a chance, and people did not feel like there was a chance. So they got up and left. They figured it's better to go home early than to stick around and witness whatever this is. There was not even a tiny feeling of hope that this might be turned around. They might win.
Nope. Back-to-back home games in the playoffs in round 2 that you lose 6-1. You get booed off the ice in the second and third periods, and fans have left the building with more than 10 minutes left in the third.
Yeah.
The 2 biggest home games in 23 years.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, the 2 biggest home games, and those are the efforts that you give them.
It's just awful.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move into our overtime period in just a second. If you have questions about this game, I don't know if there's anything left to be said about this game, about the future, about the Leafs team in general, fire them off into the chat. Again, thank you everybody who has tuned in this season, whether this is your first time tuning in, whether you've watched every stream. We really appreciate all of you. Make sure to like and subscribe, so that when next season starts off, you'll know when Game Over Toronto is live. And check out the rest of the shows on the Game Over Network. Specifically, we'll shout out Game Over Edmonton. They're the only ones left. They're the only ones still going. They're going to be powering through the Eastern Conference Final and Western Conference Final, and hopefully beyond for their sake. And so continue to support Game Over. Go check out Game Over Edmonton. It's going to be that series between Edmonton and the Stars is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure they will have some great shows and great streams after the fact. Shall we go to the questions? Should we go? Let's see what we got here. Let's go this one. Let's go this one from Mark. Favorite Game Over Toronto moment from the season. What you got, Zach? What's favorite? Let's make this all about us. Honestly, for a moment here.
I'm not gonna lie. The fact, look, Game Over. It's the first year back, and it's a very small channel, as you guys know. We just crossed 200 subscribers, 200 the other day. It's nothing crazy to write home about. The fact that I'm looking down at chat right now and there's 47 people watching live right now.
We're at 50 a minute ago.
We're at 50. This is the biggest audience we've had all season. And after game 1, we peaked at 30 viewers or 29 viewers. And that was incredible. That was amazing. The fact that we're around 50 like to close out the the season. I like, as weird as it is to say, like just watching the growth throughout the season, even though it's not the biggest channel in the world, the people that do watch are diehard passionate.
Yeah.
Luke has been a warrior all season
Absolutely.
in the chat. Terry M has been in the chat all season. Matthew
Legends.
joined about halfway through, rediscovered us. He's been great in the chat. Like, we've had these guys that have been in the chat all season and have stuck with us. And so you guys are the reason we're able to do this. So thank you all so much for tuning in all season. And as Matthew says right now, there's 49 people right now. We got 14 likes on the stream. Drop a like on the video and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it's a small channel. It really helps us grow. So all of you, all 46 of you now, drop a like and subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I'll say one of my favorite moments was game 3 versus Ottawa, when all 3 of us were on the stream for, I think, just the second time of the year. And we were coming off the high of back-to-back overtime wins. That was such a fun time. I had been gone for several weeks. I hadn't done a stream in some time, and to come back and be with both you and Lauren, and to have an exciting win like that to talk about was a really, really special moment. And that's sort of a highlight for me, in addition to, as you said, just hearing from everybody and having everybody tune in. It's been really, really good. Let's go to this one. This is a fun one. One wild and crazy guy says, "I'm a diehard Panthers fan. I'm genuinely confused by the claim that the Panthers are a dirty team. Do you buy into that, or is it sour grapes?"
I think it's very easy to overblow some of the claims. I think Sam Bennett is the one guy that if I had to pick out anyone on that team, I'm like, yeah, he's greasy, because he has a knack for giving guys head trauma. But the Panthers as a team, it's not that they're dirty, it's that they play a style of hockey that is essentially, well, the refs can't call everything. Yeah. So they get away with the most infractions. They commit the most infractions per game. So I like Aaron Ekblad's elbow on Brendan Hagel in the first round. Dirty or just a aggressive team crossing the line? That's not for me to say. That's not for me to judge. I will say that the Panthers are like they're the most physical team in the league, and Paul Maurice. This is what Paul Maurice teams do. They commit a lot of penalties that don't get called, and they love. They're greasy, the greasiest team in the league that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't say dirty.
Yeah, they're greasy. They do all those things that you said, Zach, and then they back it up with really, really skilled play. Like it's incredibly impressive. Like they are a very, very, very good team. And so they get away with a lot. It does seem, and you one wild and crazy guy, you said maybe it's sour grapes on your end. Maybe this is sour grapes on my end. I will admit, it does seem like the refs are a little less likely to call stuff on them. But that's not their fault. That's not their fault. And you as a Panthers fan are well within your rights to go, what do you want me to do about it? They're not calling it. We got to keep playing. Actually, we can't stop the game and go, you know what? Actually, I tripped that guy. You should put me in the penalty box. Who the fuck is going to do that? So
exactly.
Yeah. So take advantage of it by all means. And now that the Leafs are out, just kill Carolina. Just kill them all.
This is my thing. Is I watch Florida, and it would be so easy to just be like, oh, they're dirty. Oh, the refs. This and that. Stop crying.
Yeah.
I watch the Panthers, and for as greasy and dirty as they could possibly be, I watch them and I'm like, I wish the Leafs played like that. Because as long as the NHL rulebook is called this way, I wish it was the Leafs that were the ones getting away with it.
Yeah. Pete TR44 says, yeah, blame it on the refs. Dude, that's not what we're doing. That is no. You've missed the first hour and 4 minutes of this show, because we've spent the last hour and 4 minutes of the show blaming it on the Leafs.
let me sum up the entire 9 years of the Leafs. It's not the refs' fault. They just suck.
Let's see. Josh says, on his question, is anything completely off the table in terms of change going forward? No.
Nope.
Here's one. You're not going to replace Carlton the Bear as the mascot. That's my only one.
I was going to go further. I don't quite think relocation or rebranding is on.
There you go. Josh also says this is a very nice compliment from Josh. You guys should be proud because the analysis is top. Well, thank you very much, Josh. Let's see. What else we got? Luke Venables. Should get a question from Luke. Maybe we should end with a question from Luke here.
Absolutely.
Assuming big changes is off. Assuming big change. Let me start the question again. Assuming big changes in the off season, is there any chance the Leafs come back better next season, or is there about to be a dip for a few years?
So,
go ahead.
Okay. It is possible the Leafs get better next season. Mm-hmm. It is possible they get worse. But what I do know is what they've been doing isn't good enough, so you have to just try something new. Mm-hmm. We are past the point of, like John Tavares didn't even say his trademark. We're right there, quote, after the game. Like, even he was like, man, this sucks. Yeah. We are past the point of trying the same thing over and over again. We've been past that point, but I don't care whether the Leafs get better or worse next season. All I care about is that they try something new. Yeah. If they miss the playoffs next year trying something new, I will sit here on the last show of next season and say, you know what? It was a disappointing year, but at least they tried something new instead of running it back.
And, we've seen teams do that. We've seen very, very good teams try something new, miss the playoffs, and then come back with a vengeance, come back with a fury, and, either do the thing or get damn close to doing the thing. And I'm not saying I want them to miss the playoffs. I'm not saying they should try to miss the playoffs. But like you said, something's got to be different. And so if they got to be a wild card team again, if they can't have home ice advantage, they can't win the division. We've tried all of that with this group. So try something else and see if it gets you to the playoffs and gets you over this ridiculously low bar. Like, this is what we keep coming back to. Yeah. 7 games. Barely. You're not halfway. You have not reached the halfway point.
So a Florida-based team has made the Stanley Cup Finals 5 of the last 5 years, and possibly 6 in a row, depending on what Florida does. Carolina's made the conference finals like 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years. It's not like this is, and dude, parity in the league has been been dead. Like, we kind of killed the myth of parity. It's been the same teams in the conference, like the same group of teams for the last 6-7 years. So it's not hard. It's very easy once you're good to stay good.
Yeah. The
Leafs just have always been a team that is good, but not elite.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it.
We have 57 people.
A lot of people going.
We might have to answer a few more questions.
Yeah, I think we should answer a few more questions, and I think we should go with this one. Spider-Man 356. Who will win the cup? Let's just throw the Leafs out the window now. Who's winning the Stanley Cup this year?
Let's do a two-parter, because this will tie into Matthew's question. Who do you want to win more, Edmonton or the Panthers? Of the 4 teams remaining, who do you want to win, and who do you think will win?
Oh, man. How do I... As I said earlier, I think we're getting a rematch of Florida Edmonton. And I would like... Oh, this is going to pain me to say it. I would like Edmonton to win, because I really don't want to have to watch, and I'm sorry that this is my reason, but I really don't want to have to watch another Stanley Cup visit to the White House. I really don't want to have to see that. I would like Edmonton to win it, and Mark Carney can have his moment with the Stanley Cup. I think that'd be much happier with that than the other alternative. So I think I'd like to see Edmonton win for that reason. But and again, it's the bias. Maybe it's the bias of just having watched this team and having watched this team eviscerate a Leafs team I was very excited about. We might have gone Tampa back-to-back a few years. It might be time for the other Florida team to go back-to-back. And I kind of have a feeling that the Panthers are in a really good spot to do that.
I agree. I think the Oilers are going to win the Cup. I kind of want them to. My nightmare scenario was a Leafs-Oilers Cup final, because the Oilers, for as much as the Panthers are built in a lab to shut down the Leafs, the Oilers are built in a lab to give the Leafs hope every game and rip it away. The Leafs every game would go up 1 or 2-0 in the first period, and every time we go into the third period and be like, wow, can we hold the leaders, where McDavid is just not going to be denied.
Imagine if the Leafs played the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final and the game-winning goals for Edmonton were scored by Zach Hyman, Connor Brown, Kasperi Kapanen. At least Cody Ceci isn't on the team anymore. He can't haunt us.
Yeah. He's on Dallas. But and Matthew puts it. So Matthew in the chat saying, I want the Cup in Canada, but I only want the out of the Canadian. And that honestly is my mindset. Like, I'm very much it's me or no one. Like, it's the Leafs or no one. I don't care for this Canadian 30-year curse, whatever.
Yeah.
But McDavid is not. He's gonna win a cup at some point in his career. Let's just get it out of the way. Yeah. I think he's due. If he doesn't win it this year,
maybe he'll smile.
The fact that the Oilers can win the cup, on paper, the Oilers have no business being in the conference final, but they got to the playoffs and just decided that they were elite again. So full credit to the Oilers. They found another gear in the playoffs. I will forever hate the LA Kings for blowing the opportunity that they had in the first round. And honestly, the other option that would be funny that I want, and I noticed, I'm saying this because Kay's in the chat, I really want the Rantanen Bowl, Dallas versus Carolina. It would be so funny. It would be amazing.
That honestly would be terrific. That would be so fun. But yeah, I'm with you too. I've generally not been pick the Canadian team up until this year.
I think it's more like I'm just fine with the Oilers winning it. Whatever, you can do it. Cool.
Yeah, they've done the requisite lose in the Stanley Cup final. Now they should get their chance to, reach the promised land.
And Florida had to pay their dues. They lost in the cup final in 2023, and then they won last year.
Exactly. It almost feels like it's kind of like a rite of passage that you have to lose this in the Stanley Cup final once to then be able to win it a few years later. Yeah. Or a year later.
Even
if
Vegas,
you're the Panthers.
Vegas had their miracle run in their season. They lost in the cup final, right? Sometimes it's not easy, man. It's not easy. So the fact that they have the chance to go back to the cup final at all is super impressive. And boy, am I envious of the playoff success that they've had in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions we got here? Anything else we want to hit? All right, we'll go to this one here. We got a new listener, Christian, who says, Christian, hey guys, just found the channel. Curious about your thoughts on the Mitch Marner slander. I agree due to the circumstances he's probably got to go, but I don't see how he alone changes this outcome. This is what we were saying earlier. I think you at this point, change for the sake of change is necessary. Generally, that's not something you want to do, but after 9 years, I've always liked Mitch. I've always wanted to like him. I've always cheered for him. But at 9 years, you got to change something, and you need to do it in a way that's going to shock the system. And taking number 16 out should shock the system and hopefully will open up the correct opportunities for this team to win 8 games in the playoffs or 12 games. Or imagine 16 games. Imagine that.
Ooh.
So that's where I'm at. I don't want to. I'm gonna hate the next few weeks until he leaves, if he leaves, until he leaves. It's gonna be awful to see people to watch people tear down this guy, and I'd rather not do it while he's on the way out the door. I'd rather see him just leave with some dignity, because I do remember all those years before him and Matthews got here, and those years were awful. They sucked. Those teams were bad, and as soon as those guys got here and as soon as they got together, things turned around and they actually made the playoffs. There was a long time there where I was like, oh, playoff hockey, what's that? The Leafs aren't in it. And now we've had 9 straight years of playoff hockey, which is nice, but you kind of hope that in those 9 years you'd have had more success than this, more than 2 trips to the second round, preferably something beyond the second round. And you would hope that you wouldn't be consistently been embarrassed. And it's not on him alone. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. And he is the guy in the position where it is easiest to make that change. You do not have to ask him. He does not have to waive anything. You just got to get to July 1st. And like I said, say, good luck, pal. And he's on his way.
If you're going to be that nice about it.
Yeah, well.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't hate Mitch Marner as a person. I don't even hate Mitch Marner as a player. I hate that the Leafs have lost in the same way so many times. And this is the easiest way to change things up. And it's the most obvious, the biggest. It might take a few years to become that dominant team again in the regular season, but the cap space is invaluable. Spending this much at the top of your lineup is not. It doesn't work. So time for something new.
Time for something new. Matthew says, now that the Leafs are done, are you going to watch Team Canada? Sure. I always like the World Championships,
like
but
the championships?
Yeah. I like the championships, but I never have the chance to watch them because they're usually on at weird times. I'll watch the gold medal game.
My answer is more boring. I will be tuning in Tuesday night to Game 1 of Carolina and Florida. Like I just love the NHL play too much and the World Championships are kind of just like we all lost, so let's go hang out.
Yeah, and having had the Four Nations earlier this year, you've seen what international hockey can be at its best. When the Olympics roll around next year.
That'll be electric.
Yeah.
I got to shout out Spider-Man. Jets suck ass too. They were number 1 in the season. Yes, they do. The Jets, I'm so happy they got fraud checked. They were the Jets and the Capitals. I'm so glad that they both lost because I had so many takes about both of those teams, and I'm so happy to be vindicated on those two. Like I said, the Caps were frauds all season. I said the Jets were gonna get the President's Trophy curse, remains unbeaten. Yeah, just want to shout that out.
Yeah. Luke, do you have someone you want to take over as GM? I'm content to give Brad another year with a new president.
And Matthew says the same thing. Peel takes over as president. I don't know, but keep Tree Tree Living completely rebuild the decor into something that was actually decent. So like the best decor we've seen in 20. So I'm content to let Tree ride it out for a little bit, but no, there's no way. Shanahan, good riddance. Yeah. I want Shanahan gone more than Marner.
Shanahan walks in the new guy's first day. Goes, you know what we should bring back? Mitch Marner.
Sorry, I do have to clarify quick. Josh pointing this out. Yes, the Jets are frauds, but mad respect to Mark Scheifele playing under the circumstances. Absolutely. That was such a gut-wrenching story, and I like full credit to Mark Scheifele for playing in that game, for scoring a big goal in that game. I know that the penalty at the end of regulation and being in the box for the series winner is the most lonely place to be on earth. It was probably the worst 24 hours of his life. So full respect to Mark Scheifele and full condolences for his losses. And you know what?
100%.
Also full credit to Stars fans, because in the aftermath of that news, they were all donating to the Jets Foundation in $55 increments.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I do think we got to call it. I know we got a lot of people watching, but you know what?
Yeah, everyone.
Always leave them wanting more.
54 people in here. Drop a like, hit subscribe. It takes 3 seconds. It really helps the channel out.
Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in for this funeral of the Leafs season.
Yeah, it's not the way we want it to go out, but it's been fun. It's been a fun season, and it was the best playoff run in years. As sad as that is, it was the best. Man. It was the best. It was the best of times, the worst of time. Zach, tell people where they can keep up with you during the off season.
You can find me on Twitter, Bluesky, and YouTube at Game Over Network on all. Well, and if you do subscribe to Game Over Toronto, be on the lookout because we will have some type of off-season content when there are notable pieces of news that come out.
Yeah, Zach, drop your handles one more time. You cut out for just a second there.
Sorry. So you
No
can
worries.
find me on Twitter, Bluesky, and YouTube at Zach Payne 41.
Zach Payne 41. And you can follow me on Instagram at Dominic J25. And if you want to talk some Star Wars, you feeling like I'm just sick of the Leafs, let's talk some Star Wars. Check out the Star Wars Underworld podcast. That's my other show. And that's where we talk all things galaxy far, far away. But that is it. Big thank you to you for listening and watching and commenting and getting in on the conversation tonight and for all the games all season. Big thank you to our other co-host, Lauren, who couldn't be here because she's celebrating her wedding anniversary. So I wish the Leafs could have given her a better friggin' anniversary, but you know what?
She got to miss this game.
She got for the best. So big thanks to her. And Game Over Toronto will be back next season, and we hope to see you then. Good night, everybody.